The educator Dr. Maria Montessori once said,
"The child developing harmoniously and the adult improving himself at his side make a very exciting and attractive picture."
Welcome to Montessori Education with me, Jesse McCarthy, where we talk raising children and educating students while bettering ourselves right alongside them. Hey everyone, so today I'm going to share a story about an old lady told by Maria Montessori. So here it goes. Quote, "Granny is sitting by the fireside knitting a stocking. She is very old and her eyesight is failing, and every now and then she drops a stitch without noticing it. But she goes on knitting just the same, and in due course the stocking is finished. But on account of the dropped stitches, it is not so strong or so perfect a garment as it might have been. Similarly, if the child misses some of his sensitive periods during his development, he will still grow up into an adult. But that adult will not be so strong nor so perfect an individual as he would have been if he had been able to avail himself of their constructive power." End of quote. So that's Maria Montessori. It's from a biography by E.M. Standing called Her Life and Work. So you don't need to be a knitter to get this. Stocking is not as tight. It's kind of loose fitting and maybe doesn't look quite as good as it could have been. You also don't need to be a Montessori expert to really get this. We don't need to do a deep dive into, say, what exactly sensitive periods are. Most people understand the idea that kind of some early learning, if missed, can be difficult to regain. An example that comes to mind for me is a second language. Very easy for young children to gain, notoriously hard for most adults, and miserable for most of us had to be forced to do it in high school. And then trying to gain an accent for a second language as an adult, it's almost impossible, or you just really have to put your whole life into it. So again, the stocking would never be perfect if you did not learn a second language as a young child. Or maybe a more complex example here. Let's say in elementary school, a math teacher tells you you're no good at math. Maybe you're just, you're really poor at this. It's not your thing. Then you might very well take that to heart and never be good at math. Maybe even feel, kind of uncomfortable with numbers for the rest of your life. I know a lot of people can relate to this. And then there's much, much worse examples, a child who was never, ever loved by a parent or by anybody around, or even if you were abused. These things can be very tough to overcome. So the overall point here is what happens in childhood, or maybe doesn't happen in childhood, can have a lasting impact. So what Montessori is really getting at with her drop stitches analogy is it's important that we do all that we can to help children knit that tight stocking, basically build themselves into strong, upright young men and women. But what has always been fascinating to me about this passage is actually how does it apply to us now as adults? Because in one way it might seem pretty negative, like, oh, we got all these drop stitches. We're kind of not as strong or as perfect as we could be. So does it mean that whatever we as little children made of ourselves, that's it? That's all it is? Or can we, somehow go back and fix the parts that might not be so strong? My take is definitely yes to that. We can fix and maybe even improve on it all. There's a great line related to this. It's actually from a movie called The King's Speech. And it's this stuttering prince who really receives some meaningful guidance from a mentor of his. And the mentor said, quote, "You don't need to be afraid of the things you were afraid of when you were 5. So that stayed with me because I think it's true. And I think it's this kind of work that's a huge part of Montessori, of being parents and teachers. And Maria Montessori herself definitely emphasized, this type of work. So what I'm basically talking about, it's important that we look back into our own childhoods and find our own, drop stitches. To the extent that's possible, of course. We're not going to remember what happened at 6 months old or something like that. And the goal is that we can potentially correct things, make them better. So this is introspection and the growth that comes with it. As a kind of a real simple example, say we feel, again, we're not good at math as a grown adult today. I don't think we should just accept that. the feeling of like, oh, that's just my lot in life. I'm terrible at math. No. I mean, I would suggest getting in a Montessori classroom if you have one nearby, sitting on the ground like a child and playing with the math material in there. I mean, it's wild. That's how I regained my love of math. And it's just that kind of childlike joy with just understanding things. And then you're playing with these materials. You can feel like a child and start to learn, oh, math can be fun. I can get this stuff. Or say you hate grammar, like a lot of people do, or they don't even know what is grammar exactly. And maybe you feel like you could never, ever write an essay again, or an article for a paper, or even a letter to a friend. But you don't feel too great about that and you'd like to. Well, I'd say then we go and chat with, a great Montessori elementary teacher, or even someone you just know who loves writing, and pick their brain. Tell them you want to be able to write well. Ask how you can improve, tips they can give you, that kind of thing. But of course, it's not just practical subject areas that can be the issue. Sometimes we have to dig much deeper to find our drop stitches. I'll actually share an example from my own life on this deeper work. And I'll say up front, it doesn't put me in that great of a light, at least back when it happened, but I think it's worth telling you about. So in my early 20s, I was teaching at a relatively traditional school. And this was this one day I was up, it was maybe a dozen elementary age children I was teaching, up at the chalkboard, about to write something on there for them. I don't recall the whole, context, but I'm going up to the board and I've got to write, and I am just blanking on a particular word. Now, in my head, I'm like, does this thing have, was it 2 M's or was it 2 R's? And I'm starting to trip because I got to write this. Again, this is a very early teaching experience and not positive. And then I start, when you get in your head, I'm like, I'm supposed to be the teacher up here and I can't even spell this freaking simple word. I start really kind of beating myself up. And, in the spot, I just chickened out. I didn't write the word. I didn't even attempt to write the word. And in the moment, I didn't want to look stupid in front of all these kids. Now, so what? Well, later I really thought about this situation, and it hit me because I realized that it wasn't just about the spelling. Like, I had some work to do, and it's not just, I've got to improve my spelling. Like, that wasn't it. I was tripping in the moment. So it's not merely the children in our lives who need to grow. We do too. And, being as parents or teachers, when we're around children, they can bring this stuff out in us. And I think it's a positive thing, because we can only grow from learning more about ourselves. In this particular case for me, I had to dig deep, and through a lot of work, I realized that it wasn't really about feeling stupid in front of the children. It was like deep down about feeling stupid, period. And I consider myself a smart guy on the outside, but I wasn't feeling so smart in some moments. And I had to really look into that. Now, I'm not going to go into the depth of all that, like what work I did, but it's just to say that the more open I really became to my emotions, and that whatever they were, even if I did not want them, including this feeling of I feel stupid, the better I became as a teacher and as a person. I was just open to feeling whatever was there, and then of course digging into it. Now, if there's a similar situation today, I would just be happy to be like, hey guys, any of you know how to spell the word tomorrow? That was the word tomorrow. Pretty simple, but it's not simple if you got hidden baggage, Now, today I love finding baggage that I might be carrying around, as again, it means I can correct something and do better. It lightens the load. It just has this feeling of lightness. Kind of just that freer, more childlike spirit. I'm learning. I'm forever a student, forever growing. I might mess up. Okay, so then I learn from it. Like, there's just no fear. And it all came from just recognizing, oh man, I got this emotion I don't really like, and digging into it. Now, the thing is, though, it's not always easy to acknowledge something about ourselves that we do not like. I'm personally just so grateful that years ago I found a therapist. I never want to see a therapist. Like, oh, you're weak if you see a therapist. And then I kind of got over that, and I saw somebody, super wise woman. Unfortunately, she is no longer alive. Even back then, I came to learn that she was in her 90s when I was seeing her. So a lot of worldly experience. But anyway, she taught me a ton, including that one cannot really improve if you're just not open to acknowledging what you don't like about yourself. Like that's a starting point. You got to acknowledge that. So if you don't, that's trouble to begin with. For instance, years ago, I had a tendency to push away, quote, bad feelings. It could be sadness, could be anger, could be a number of different emotions. And this lady, she had such a good line on it all. I mean, there's other stuff too, but she was talking about envy. And she said, and I'm paraphrasing her, but it's basically the gist. She said, many people push envy down when they feel it. I don't. I'm happy to catch myself in the rare moments I'm feeling envious, because I know then I'll learn something about myself, about something I might really want in life. So you see that? She's saying, think about many of us. If we felt envy, you just immediately want to say, oh, no, that's not me. I'm not envious. This lady, though, she was welcoming that kind of thing, because from it, she can learn about herself and improve. I once heard another person that I had heard talk about this in a different kind of context, but it was actually Kobe Bryant. Here's some related words. It's basically about not denying our emotions. Quote, I have self-doubt. I have insecurity. I have fear of failure. I have nights when I show up at the arena and I'm like, my back hurts, my feet hurt, my knees hurt. I don't have it. I just want to chill. We all have self-doubt. You don't deny it, but you also don't capitulate to it. You embrace it. End of quote. I found that really wild coming from such, just really an all-star. The point is we need to accept and even embrace all of our feelings. And that's the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. Now, that alone won't give us all the answers. That's for sure. But it is a great starting point for introspection, for, as Socrates and the ancients might put it, knowing thyself. Or as Maria Montessori herself put it, quote, the real preparation for education is a study of oneself. End of quote. And I got to read that again, because she's talking about, this is like foundational stuff. The real preparation for education is a study of oneself. And she was not exaggerating. She meant it. Like if you're getting trained in Montessori and you're really going deep in Montessori, you are going deep into yourself, not just what children are about, not what the environment is about. You're going deep into yourself. I mean, ultimately, our work and growth as parents, teachers, it includes looking within. If we do not do this, we will never find where we dropped a stitch, so to speak. And then, who wants to be wearing some loose-fitting, possibly ugly clothing all of our lives? Who wants that? In all seriousness, I'm raising this, and at the beginning of the school year in particular, if you're listening to this when it comes out, because I found that many of the biggest problems we face as teachers, as parents, as just, really adults in life, actually stem from smaller ones that we picked up in childhood. The drop stitches that we haven't yet fixed, or we don't even allow ourselves to know are there or are missing. And Maria Montessori, she understood and taught this. Again, as did the ancient Greeks, whom she admired. Socrates, I don't know if you've heard this, but it's a pretty famous line of his. He said, the unexamined life is not worth living. And I definitely agree. Think about this. In that situation of mine, back in my early 20s, I would never have told a child that he or she is stupid. Just never. But I was somehow okay with believing, somewhere inside of me, that I was stupid. See, so major contradiction there. But I had to do a lot of work to figure that out. So it's these kind of questions like, why am I okay with thinking I'm stupid in something, but not thinking about the children like that? Like it's that type of questioning that it has to be asked and ultimately answered, and we got to do it for ourselves in whatever context in your own life and different things that pop up. Not everybody's going to feel stupid or can't spell tomorrow in the moment. Anyways, all part of the Montessori journey, part of the fun, looking within. Let's get to it. Let's grow right alongside the children in our lives. So that's the drop stitches, in Granny. Hope it was helpful or at the least interesting. If it was, hit the like button wherever you are listening to this, or leave a review for our show, the Montessori Education Podcast with me, Jesse McCarthy, and share the episode or the whole podcast if you're really liking it. Whatever you want to do, go for it. Now, for my old school listeners, I am pretty excited about two updates I want to share with you. One is I will be doing a live Zoom Q&A in about 1 week. I think it's next Wednesday with the awesome Jenny Sackett. And it is on Wednesday, August 30th at 4:30 p.m. That's Pacific time. So 7:30 Eastern where I'm at. Sorry about the late notice, but it has been crazy busy lately for me. So for more on that Q&A, visit montessorieducation.com/real talk, REALTALK, real talk. And my second exciting update, something new is on the way, and I will be opening it up first to those who are on the Montessori email list. It's going to be good, man. It is what I wished I had as an early teacher, most definitely as a parent. So if you are not on the email list, get on that now. You can go over to montessorieducation.com and I'm sure you'll figure it out. That is also where you can reach me if you want to get in contact, send me some feedback, ask me some questions, whatever, or even contribute to the show. That's much appreciated. That's it, guys. Keep rocking. I hope everyone's well out there, and adios for now.